What's up, everybody? It's Jackson with the Shafter Coaches Show. We're going to do a breakdown today of the Shafter-Wasco game. I know you guys liked it last week, so we're going to bring it back this week. A couple things before we get in. I had a lot of people ask me questions, and I've seen a lot of people on social media. Basically, in my opinion, a lot of excuses are coming from both sides. I'm not here to really talk about that. A lot of Shafter people saying if Marion Sloan plays, they win by a couple scores. He didn't play, so I'm not going to play the what-if game. A lot of Wasco people are talking about, well, if there's different officials, we win that game. There wasn't different officials. So I like to live in the real world. I like to talk X's and O's. So if you don't want to talk X's and O's, this is probably not the spot for you. I just like talking ball, so we're going to talk about ball because I think there was a lot of good ball played, and I want to focus on that. With that being said, let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about today, we're going to talk about this Wasco offense, and specifically Hammy Lopez. I personally thought Hammy was good. This game showed me that I think this kid is a college-level running back. And it's not necessarily because the things he does beyond the line of scrimmage, it's kind of what he does before that I think doesn't get talked about enough. So we'll kind of talk briefly about that stuff first. So what I got right here, we're just going to talk through Wasco's first touchdown, right? Simple single wing look like they always do. I got to give credit to Coach Waddle. I thought he was going to come out and do something different. He didn't. He knows exactly what his team is, and he's stuck by his guns, and I really respect that, especially in a high-pressure game like this one. So let's kind of talk about this first touchdown Wasco had. The thing that Hammy does the best that I want to talk about is tracks. He takes really good tracks before the line of scrimmage. And what I mean by that, for the people that may not know, as a running back, a lot of your tracks happen here before the line of scrimmage, kind of just, setting up your angle of where you want to run the ball or something like that. I'm just kind of drawing a bunch of squiggly lines to show you. But Hammy set up cutbacks for himself, and I don't even know if he was doing them on purpose, but he set himself up for success. And Shafter came out in this 4-4 look. Kind of looks like more of a 4-5 look because they walk down these corners, obviously because there's no one out to really guard. But the thing that got Shafter in trouble defensive earlier, and I think early on and throughout the first half, was simply that they were over-pursuing stuff and they were taking bad angles on the backside of things, which kills you in this single-wing team. So let's kind of talk about this first touchdown. It's standard. They still pull all these guys, right? They still pull blockers. He's still leading up. He's still kind of cracking down. Hammy does this really well. He comes off, and it looks like outside power, and he kind of sets it up like that. But he's actually, if you go back and watch the tape, he's really patient with his footwork. And he was just letting these guys flow. The middle backer was flowing way too far. The outside linebacker's flowing too far. This guy was shooting up. And then the safety even kind of was floating too far. And when you flow, all those guys flow too far. Well, as you can imagine, you just get this guy pinned or block him down and get these guys kind of washed out. It sets up for this right here. It sets up for a clean cutback for Hammy. And no one's there. And that's exactly what you saw on, I'm going to say the majority, I think, of their touchdowns in the first half came off cutback lanes like that. And largely that's because these guys out here were taking bad angles. They were over pursuing, which leaves, gaps up the middle of the field. And this safety right here was a little late a lot of the times getting over, and you can't do that because you're the last line of defense. Really, you would think it's Sloan, and it kind of is, but if he misses a tackle, you got to take this angle to meet him right here. And this linebacker right here, he was getting washed a lot of the times. He was getting caught in the mess, or he was even shooting up this gap, and you can't do that because your angle should actually be here so you can meet Hammy if he does cut back. I know that's a lot of lines. That's a lot of squiggly lines right now. But for Wasco's offense, I think they did a really good job in the first half of just trusting Hammy and trusting what they do. They were getting cutback lanes, like I said. They were getting pushed off the line. Shafter had this heavy look that they went to in the second half that I think really benefited them. And so next, we're going to kind of talk about that. All right, so Shafter went to what we call a heavy look. Now, I'm not going to get too much into, these guys probably labeled something wrong. These guys are really, they look like DNs. I just call them linebackers because to me they're walked down. So I just like it to kind of make it easier on the viewer a little bit to kind of understand that basically a 4-4 look the 4-4 look was, I get what it's meant to do. It's meant to kind of let your guys kind of roam free. You don't want to get washed up like you can in this 6-man front. You got to be able to run past those pulling guards, kind of get through the middle. But to me, I think that Shafter's defense just doesn't have the speed that it has in the past. And that's not a slight on anything. I think both schemes really work well. I just think you have to have a lot of speed. And I think Shafter was missing that a little bit Friday night. But in this 6-man front, Hammy did break one loose on him, I believe, in the first half. He just kind of ran outside zone and cut it back up the middle like we talked about earlier. Guys were getting washed on the backside. But this 6-man front in the second half really played a big role. And what helps in this 6-man front, this heavy look, like you imagine, it's just you got all the gaps filled already. And if everyone fills a gap, you should be all right. The problem is if you miss a tackle in this 6-man front, you're probably going to get beat because there's not a whole lot of guys out there. I mean, you got 2 guys for your last, line of defense. But in this 6-man front, what Shafter did really well at was Robert Aguirre and number 10, the other outside backer. Excuse me, I'm blanking on his name. Sorry, it's been a long week. Especially Robert, though, he played really well in the second half. We'll get into that kind of last play of the game in overtime that, he kind of saved the day on a little bit. But what Robert was doing really well he was attacking this guy at the line of scrimmage. He was really beating up their end or, their tight end, whichever one was on him. And he was forcing everything back inside. Well, look at this. You got all these backers in here. And I like to circle them because these backers played really well. Nick Rossetti really played well in the second half. And, I mean, Shafter only gave up 7 points in the second half, including overtime. And I think they got 2 4-and-outs. And one, Wasco went for it, I think, on their own 30, 35. And Shafter defense, you got to give them credit. In the second half, they really shut down everything Wasco had going. And we'll kind of talk about that a little more later, that last play, because I think that was a really, really great defense performance in the second half. And I think Adam Clayton deserves a lot of credit. He made some great adjustments in that game, and I think it won't get talked about enough. But this heavy look that he was running ended up working for him, and kudos to him for having a backup plan to like his main game plan. I think that's really good coaching. And so now let's get into Shafter's offense. I just want to talk about one thing because they didn't really do anything new, but they did something really well, and we'll kind of talk about that last series a little bit. All right, so Shafter's offense on Friday night, especially in the second half, I'll talk to Coach a little bit whenever I see him again. But in my opinion, I thought it was his best coaching performance maybe since he's been here. I mean, he was down, one of his top guys, but he stayed calm. And in that last series, he called one heck of a drive and didn't use any timeouts. And I really want to ask him this, but I think on that last series, I think Coach Perucci's plan was, hey, I hope we get 3 seconds on the clock and we're down in that goal line, and I hope that's when we score, because I really think he didn't want to give Wasco the ball back and give him any sort of chance. Obviously, we know with the missed PATs, it wouldn't have mattered, but I just got to give it up to Coach. But let's talk about that last run play by Verdugo when he ran it in to tie the game up. So, obviously, Shafter just comes out in this spread look. But if you notice, especially in the second half, they were doing it all night. But in the second half, here's Jaime Lopez on defense. They were motioning this H-back, this wide receiver. He would either go cross the field usually, but on this last play, he stopped and he jetted back. He jetted back across and kind of ran this little route, or kind of just, ran to the sidelines, I like to say. What's the meaning of that? That's to get this guy out of the box. Now, look at, now you got a 6-man front versus a 5-man line, and zone blocking, you could really cover this pretty well, especially because there's 2 backers, so a lot of times you can get double teams on guys and then have one guy, push here. But one thing, this in on for Wasco, number 20, he actually had a really good game. But he started crashing down a lot. Like, he would fly down the line because he thought if he got there fast enough, he could meet the back behind the line of scrimmage. And sometimes he did that. Like I said, he hustled his butt off. He did a really good job. But when you do that, it's feast or famine. Because when the DN crashes on the backside, this tailback, if he, can read it fast enough, which Verdugo did, give him credit, and you miss this tackle on this guy, there is a cutback lane almost every single time, and no one is there besides the safety. And that's what you've seen in that fourth quarter touchdown when Shafter tied the game up. The running backs and the line started getting pushed. And credit to that offensive line. As the game went on, Shafter's offensive line got better. And that tempo, I think, did hurt Wasco a little bit. But Verdugo, I mean, was hitting that cutback lane, and he did on that touchdown. And it was just really, really impressive. And it's not a large cutback, right? It's just tracks. We talk about tracks again. Excuse my voice. I think I lost it. Anyways, yeah, it's just not a small cutback lane, but it's just right here in the gap because these offensive line were getting so much push down that it was just open. And you got to give credit to that. And you got to give credit to Verdugo. He's the fourth string back, and he read that. But again, that last series, Perucci not panicking and running the ball a lot. Ezekiel Osborne stepping up in the big moments again, making that sideline throw that a lot of people will forget about. That was a really nice throw. But to watch ball like this, it gets me excited because it looks so small, but there's a lot of good football being played on both sides. There's a lot of chess matches being played that I haven't seen in this Shafter-Wasco game in such a long time. And it was a treat to watch. And the last thing we're going to break down is that last play, because I think there's one true hero on the Shafter side that might have saved the day for the Generals. So let's talk about that next. All right, so here's what they ran. Here's what Wasco ran on this last play of the game in overtime, which, eventually led to the ending of the game. I have QB pressure written right here because this is not going to get talked about enough. Robert Aguirre on this backside right here. So what Wasco did, they faked this little handoff to number 5, Holsey. He's going to fake it, and he just kind of run a simple choice route or a simple out route by running back. This linebacker job is to guard Holsey. Now, they lined up Hammy at the wing. I really thought this ball, and I would have to ask Coach Wadle next time I see him. I kind of do want to ask him. I think this ball was meant to go to Hammy. I think they were trying to score on this play, but it's really, what they did wasn't bad. It's really a nice play. Pretty hard play to defend either way because it puts this linebacker at the end in a bind. So Hammy runs a little post route, and if you watch Hernandez, Wasco's quarterback, he's going to fake this, and the line almost kind of shifts this way, which makes me think he was supposed to, kind of act like it was a run for a little bit or just sell that fake, and then he was going to kind of go back to Hammy over the middle for that post route. The problem with that, Aguirre was unblocked. Robert Aguirre was unblocked, and when the line shifted, he hesitated a little bit, but then he got on his horse, and, he got pressure immediately. And when you get pressure on a quarterback like that, he's got to get rid of it. Hernandez flipped his hips pretty fast, and he saw this wheel route running. And this linebacker for Shafter, number 10, he was down on the line. And to pick up this guy and take the angle, that's a hard job to do. And the ball was a little bit underthrown, but that's because of the pressure by Robert Aguirre. And really, I think it's not a bad concept. They had this guy on a wheel route. And then with these guys going out, this is why I think it was probably maybe meant to go to Hammy. He's your best player, so I would think he'd have a shot at it. Because all these guys were clearing out, right? So it's all cleared out. This guy's clearing out. Leaves the middle of the field open. If they have time, I think he goes to Hammy here. Because they did throw a post to Hammy earlier in the game, went for a touchdown. But, just look at this. Look at all the ball that's being played. Everyone has to do their job on the defense side of the ball. Everyone has to read their keys. And I think Shafter did a pretty decent job of that. And give number 10 credit on this end of the line. That's a hard job to do, to go from the end of the line like a defensive end position and guard a guy at full speed running a wheel route and taking the angle to try to get there. Like I said, a great game all around. Each coaching staff, I think, coached their butts off. Perucci and Adam Clayton in the second half made the right adjustments. And ultimately, I think Shafter's offensive line and tempo really helped them out. And like I said, QB pressure was a big part in this game late. I think Shafter got a couple sacks as well. But Wasco defense impressed me. Their defensive ends really impressed me. And Wasco tackles really well. If they play again, it's going to be fireworks. And I'll get into this later in my bracket breakdown, which will come out tomorrow. But I might upset both sides of fans because I actually think the Division III playoffs provide some mismatches for both teams, specifically the defenses. You're going to run into some teams that can really toss the rock and really throw the ball. And these quarterfinals, you could see a lot of upsets. And do I think both teams will play in the Valley Championship versus each other? No. As of right now, I've got to be honest, I don't. Could that change? Yeah, if I see something different on the defensive side of the ball for both teams, yeah, it will change. But that's just my honest thoughts. I'll get more on that in my bracket breakdown later on. But thank you guys so much for watching. I do really appreciate it. We're getting more and more viewers, which is awesome to see. And I hope this kind of helps you guys understand what's going on Friday nights. I think it just kind of makes for a better experience for all. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. That'll be a Spotify podcast, probably for the bracket stuff. Thanks, guys.